which is the where everyone is living, the deluxe suites motel, but everybody calls it the Lux. And he's an integral part of the storyline. There's a very key story that Raquel is part of, that he's part of, but we couldn't have him for as much as we wanted to.
Was there anyone else, something like Chris, that maybe someone familiar from the Epitome family that you wanted to work with that didn't quite work out, or someone auditioned?
We realized Alex would have been certainly one of my key choices, but we realized early on that, and particularly since we'd started to develop the series with the Abby character was different from where Alex's strengths lie. And so we tussled back and forth. And in the end, in talking with Alex, we realized that there really just wasn't a role, at least in this season, for her. But I would have loved to have seen her, and we'll have to see how the series evolved. I'm not trying to give any secret clues here. I genuinely don't know. Will there be the opportunity to bring in an Alex-type character in the coming seasons? Who knows? We'll have to see.
Now, while working on two shows is, of course, a lot of work, are there any plans for you guys to expand into more? Or are you happy with just Degrassi and the LA Complex right now?
It's a fascinating question and one that we grapple with. We've never been a company that has wanted to do a lot of production. We don't see that, we'd be a better company if we were doing 10 shows and we were this enormous company and we were a public company. Mm-hmm. That just doesn't turn our crank. I mean, we love being so involved with a small number of shows that we can really, be there day to day. Mm-hmm. Having said that, I think there would be a possibility to do a third show and, still be very, very much involved. And particularly since we've got such brilliant people that we work with. On the LA Complex, Martin Garrow was the creator and helped develop, wrote a lot of the scripts, directed some of the episodes. And having somebody like that so integrally involved was really brilliant for us because it meant that Linda and I, while we were very involved with the process, didn't have to be involved as much as we are with Degrassi. Having said that, in first season, we were involved because, as I mentioned before, everything is a first. So you're trying to make all those decisions that you have to make once, and then as you go into second season, we know the role of music, we know the look, we know the title, we know is there going to be a theme song or not. So I think we look forward to doing the 13 episodes if we do 13 this next year of the LA Complex, and nothing's been ordered yet and won't be until we're on the air. But I think if we were going forward, it would be more like an order of 13 hours. And I think we wouldn't necessarily be spending more time than we spent this year on doing the 6 hours of the LA Complex. I'm talking about Linda and myself. And if we're running two crews at the same time, there actually would be the possibility of doing a third series. We are not going to do a third series this coming year, but I could see for the next year, it would be possible to maybe do a 13 half-hour series or a 19 half-hour series in addition. And if we did that, I suspect it would be more along the lines of, remember we developed the St. Bridget series, which was, young people working in a hospital. I still love that concept, and I think we could move forward with it, maybe not with that because we didn't succeed beyond the pilot stage there, but I still think there's a lot of good in that, and I wouldn't mind reworking that and seeing if we couldn't get something like that moving forward.
So before we wrap up here with the LA Complex and finish with a couple more Degrassi questions, are there any last minute things you want to tell everyone about the LA Complex?
That I'm so looking forward to everyone seeing it. And I'm really looking forward. It's possible by the time you get this interview out that there will be some official word about what's happening in the United States for the LA Complex. And I can't wait for that word to get out. We're very excited by the possibilities in the U.S. Clearly, for this first 6, they're going to be on the air, primarily on Much Music in Canada, although the first episode is being simulcast with CTV itself. So the first 6 will be seen in Canada first. But I think as we go on further, we may see that episodes tend to be more simulcast because there's some really, really fantastic twists and turns in the story that I'd love for people not to have spoilers about.
All right, so now on to Degrassi, we have season 11.5 coming shortly, and one of the big things right now is, of course, the return of Alex Steele, but as a different character, and she's playing Tori. And I know that there was the casting call for a new character named Tori, and she auditioned, and you guys felt that she was the best one for the role, even though she played Angela Jeremiah in the past. So, I mean, what was the decision like to really change her? Because I know a lot of people were, confused by that or upset. Some people accepted it.
Well, I mean, I was one of the people who was really hoping we could bring Alex back in as Angela Jeremiah. And that was certainly the topic of a lot of discussion with the writers. And in the end, it was their call that the twists and turns that would have been required to sort of bring Angela back. Do you bring Joey Jeremiah back? How do you bring her back and make it authentic and realistic? That they really felt that by having a new character coming in, the Tori character was the way to go. Alex is a really wonderful young actress. I mean, we've known that from before, but when we did the auditions, it was very, very clear that she just hit it out of the park, and that nobody else was going to be Tori other than Alex. And I think as we proceed and she gets more and more into the role, and as the writers are writing more and more to her strengths, the audience is really going to love it. Yeah. So in my own heart, do I still wish that she'd been brought back as Angela? Yeah, a little bit. But I think after a few weeks, and certainly I have crossed that divide now, that I just love seeing her in the show, and I think she's going to be fantastic. And of course, if you look at pictures of her as Angela when she was 6 years old, she doesn't exactly look the same.
Mhm. And now a little bit on to season 12. I know there hasn't been a whole lot done with that, but you guys have been tweeting about, giving suggestions and stuff on Twitter and all that. Is any episodes written yet, or is it all still just brainstorming?
We've been in brainstorming, and later this week, Teen Nick is arriving in, and we will pitch the first episodes for this year, as well as general story arcs for the entire year. And we'll do the same with Much Music. We'll have a great big dinner with everybody, but we'll break out into different sessions and pitch where the stories we think the stories will be going this year. Then we'll get their input, the broadcaster input, and then we'll start into the process of actually writing the scripts.
Is there any way that you want to try to make season 12 different this year?
We're not necessarily trying to go anywhere different. I think we'll find that it progresses a bit differently. Brendan York had been running the story department for a number of years and certainly left his stamp. He was just so brilliant, and we'd love to still have him. And I'd love to inveigle him back in some way on some future project. Sarah Glinsky and Michael Grassi are heading up the department this year. And they will just bring their own stamp and their own flavor to the show. So I think people will find that it's different. And I'm not going to try and speculate. I won't put words in people's mouths or have you sort of say, oh, well, Stephen said it was going this way. I think you'll just find that there is a difference. They have their own interests and passions. And of course, they've been involved with the Degrassi department for quite a while as well. But they want to make it even better, so they're sort of carrying on the flame, but trying to make it even brighter.
Now, I don't know if you know about this or if it's something that's already been revealed and I missed it, but I know some people were talking about Lauren Collins tweeted a few weeks ago that she was filming something with Marone Chambers, Annie Clark, and some other people, and I guess they were speculating that it might be like a mini episode, or I don't even know if it's Degrassi related. I don't know if
There was a 4-part webisode, or sometimes called the minis, that was shot. I'm not going to say anything about what is in or who is in or not in those minis. But those have already been shot. I'm not sure what the release plans are with those. We'll find out more when we meet with Team Nick later in the week. My guess is that they will be coming out prior to 11.5, but also we've been in discussions about creating some more minis that might also come out before or during 11.5.
Hmm.
That isn't said as much. We were talking, I believe, about 3 more minis, but nothing is set in stone there. I don't want to spoil the surprise of the minis.
Hmm.
The finale mini was really a lot of fun, and everything sort of leads up to the finale. And there's some when I watched the shooting of it, I can talk more about it after it's been there. But
Hmm.
let's just say everybody gave it their all. Even the people who weren't very good at doing what is done in that final mini really did a fantastic job, and it all came together brilliantly.
Okay, and then real quickly, the Degrassi Nation Awards were a few days ago, and I have three of them here that I was curious about what you would pick. And the first one was for the best crying moment.
Yeah, that would be really, really hard. When the girls said goodbye, first of all, during that time, we knew that we were actually, you know, losing 6 actors, and we're not losing them. They hopefully will come back, and we'll just see them whether they're on the screen or not. They're so much part of our lives. But it was an incredibly emotional moment. And when I saw, the footprint, I'm sort of tearing up even now thinking about it. When I saw the handprints in the concrete, when we were doing the sound mix of the Tyson scene,
Hmm.
and giving up Tyson, and we were putting music to it. And do you hear any dialogue, or do you not hear any dialogue, or do you just let it be silent? That was a key moment. I'm a real fan of the Drew character and how he's come along, and of course Eli has been such a stalwart. All 4 moments would be up there absolutely for me, but just because of what was going on behind the camera, I would go with the girls leaving Degrassi.
Casey and Jenna giving up Tyson, that is the one that won for that one.
Yeah, but I understand
Yeah.
that.
And then for storyline of the year,
With that one, I really loved, and I tweeted about Monroe's performance. He didn't go over the top. It was a very difficult acting job, and he just drew people in. But I know that for me, going through watching the filming and being in the editing room and seeing it all come together, that Eli moment was just so absolutely amazing for me.
hmm yeah, Tyson won that one again.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah.
And then finally, we have episode of the year.
A season goes, if I can say this, a season necessarily goes in waves. You can't have every episode have everything in it. You need to be building up the stories, and then they can pay off at a certain time.
Hmm.
But necessarily, you have to be planting seeds, building stories, and working towards. Sometimes it's a finale, but sometimes it's in the middle of a season. There's sort of a finale.
Hmm.
And for me, the prom was that, and it disappointed me, I guess, in some ways, because there's so many fans who, they talk about, is there going to be, a death or
Hmm.
something like that? And to me, death is not. I mean, obviously, it's a very terminal kind of thing, and
Right.
but it's not about whether somebody dies or doesn't die. That is too easy for me in terms of drama. Having something happen that culminates a whole bunch of stories all in one. And for me, that was the Adam moment. But to me, it was almost bigger than a death. It
Right.
was the culmination of many different storylines all coming together in a very emotional moment.
Hmm. And Extraordinary Machine, the unscripted monologue, won that one.
Right, okay.
One last thing to try and see if we can get any little something out of 11.5 out of you before we go.
I will say 2 things. One, having had the wonderful experience of having all the story suggestions when we first started brainstorming in effect for season 12, I know that there are at least a couple of things that are really going to surprise people. In other words, these are things, we had so many suggestions for particular storylines. There's one in particular that I'm thinking of now. People, at least now, will not have seen coming. So there's going to be something entirely different. The second doesn't have so much to do with what's going on in 11.5, but some people were wondering about the opening. What we've done with the opening, we do have the 4 new characters in the opening, and the characters who had graduated will not be in the opening. The overall structure of the opening will be the same. Some of the scenes are being replaced.